Jason, appreciate you being here. Thank you for that. Come to the Big Ten, FSU.
Please.
I mean, even though Offer can't say it, it's like you're saying it without saying it. Everything that is adding up, and then him to confirm that, yes, we're going after the AAU. Yes, we're not happy in the ACC. What else do we need to hear? Then he talks about his friends that are at the Big Ten without telling you they're at the Big Ten. Multiple people that he named today are Big Ten officials or administration. So it's like, and then you talk about President McCullough. This is his job. His one focus, key focal, is to get the AAU invite. I mean, I don't know what else has to be done. And yes, people have brought to me that there's SEC schools that are AAU members, but they didn't get it because of the SEC, and they were AAU members before going into that conference. So we weren't, and we're not. And there's only one reason we would get it, and that's it.
What is Alford's background? What set him up for this job?
So directly previous to this, he was marketing for the Dallas Cowboys. Previous to that, he was the athletic director at Oklahoma. Or no, let me take that back. He was something at Oklahoma, but his biggest athletic directing job was at Central Michigan, which he grew them 600% in revenue and caused the school to jump 74 spots in revenue ranking. And he hired 8 coaches in his 3-year tenure, and 5 of the 8 in the first year were coaches of the year. It's some of the things.
I mean, and when you look at his resume, it's he's been all over the SEC. He's been at he started as a GA at Mississippi State. He's been at Arkansas. I believe he spent the time in Alabama. But when you look at the pro stops, he's been with the Cowboys. I think he said, oh man, I'm missing the other. He talked about them quite a bit too. I think he's had two NFL stints, and a lot of it came in. With him kind of not revolutionizing, but streamlining the processes. And I think with the way college is going, we asked this question, college is looking more like pro and high school is looking more like college. How do you navigate that? So what you want to do is have an athletic director that's actually been well vested in both of the areas. And one of the first things he did was he got us contracted, got our food, our training table outsourced. So what Florida State has is the same training table as the New York Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys, Real Madrid, Manchester United, and Florida State. Those are the only 5 teams that they actually service. So I think that's you get yourself pro level dining. Then you get your pro level weight room, which they're going to have when they get the indoor practice facility fixed. Now there are just some logistical things that are, and that's a question I wanted to ask. We'll get it next time. Just with it being a 3 to 4 year process before the the football only facility is built. As soon as it's built, are we looking at building the next one, or are we looking at redoing them more? Because it's like keeping up with the Joneses. When you look at what Alabama's been able to do, when you look at what Georgia's doing, as soon as one building's up, the next one they may rest for a year. And then they're talking about the next building, but I think if anybody, I think that's really the thing that makes him different. And I don't see him with success looking anywhere else. I think and you got to go listen to the interview, but you see a guy who all right, this is my job. This is what I want to do. This is what my mission in life is. This is what I was called to do, and I'm called to make Florida State as great as it can be while I'm here, and to leave as much impact as he can. So I think the way they're raising money with Seminole Boosters, with Stephen Ponder, with the way that he's structuring things, I don't even think it's a situation where another school could come in and sweep him off his feet and give him a ton of money that we wouldn't be able to match. Because he sees the importance in doing that for coaches. So I'm sure there's a way that they'll make sure he's getting paid pretty good to continue to bring Florida State to the standard of excellence. And that's something else that I really like because, me, Mark, I've been talking about that standard for quite some time over here. And a lot of people give me heat about it, but they didn't score in both those end zones. They didn't bleed and sweat on that field. The standard is the standard. And that's something that Mike Norvell preached when he came in. And that was something that gave me hope. Now seeing Mike be able to live up to the words and the phrases that he's doing. But the same thing, if we did a count, like if we use that AI stuff, Chris, I promise you, he said standard about 25 to 30 times in an hour-long interview. So these guys are hell bent on not just bringing Florida State to the standard, back to the standard, championship standard, but having Florida State be talked about as the standard. Like right now, the standard of all athletics, in my opinion, should be Alabama. But he wants Florida State talked about in that manner.
Two things you said, Chris, that hit me in particular in evaluating an athletic director is you got to be able to either raise money or increase revenue. So he did that at Central Michigan in particular. And number two, and I think this is a more difficult skill, is hiring the right people. Like to be able to interview and get the right feel for people and to be able to make the right call on who you hire for leadership positions. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And in that interview, I asked him personally what it was that he looked in when he hires coaches or administrative people, whatever. And the detail that he went in on that was absolutely amazing. And the other one was Cincinnati that you were wondering about, James.
Right.
He was also at ABC for a while. I think that was it, if I'm not mistaken. But other than the other ones we said. But when we asked him about, I asked him, what was it that he was trying to do at Florida State that was similar to how he grew so much money at Central Michigan? And then he made a point for us to know that Florida State doesn't get any state assistance. We don't get any funds from the state to help the university. If they want to build a facility, they have to raise the money. And what he's doing is a big way of gaining the money is doing this 20 for 20,000 members, booster members. And he says we're on pace to complete that by the beginning of the season. Would be the first time in FSU history that we've ever had 20,000 boosters. So whatever it is that he's doing in detail, which he did give some, whatever it is that he's doing in detail is very efficient because it's showing up year in and year out.
And again, everyone, we've dropped the link in the chat, and we'll have Chris explain the best way to get there and when you can see it.
The one other thing that he talked, and I've heard another athletic director say this, is that you got to have a Rolodex of 5 coaches for every sport. Because he's like, and he said this without us even having to ask him. And he's like, you never know. So if they're being successful, other people are going to want them. Like Mike Norvell wins the national championship, the NFL will probably be calling. Or somebody will. And I don't know if he'll leave or not. But if you sit there and you don't know who you feel would be the next best guy to be able to come in and fill, then you're going to get caught with your pants down. But he talks about, and I'll let you guys listen to it. It's a very, very NFL, very much so an NFL approach. Not NFL coaching. I've never heard anybody hire coaches like this, but it's on par with how they look at talent development. So it was extremely enlightening for anybody, again, who wants to be an athletic director and wants to get to know what it's like to be an athletic director. I think he did a great job of explaining that as well.
Yeah. And, the best part, I think, what he said was the way he interviews is he does such a thorough search that he knows everything about that person before he sits down and talks to him. It was just like when you're trying to get a free agent, it's the same thing as a recruit. You want to know everything about that person before you have to sit down with them. And when he said that, the amount of work that takes to get that type of research done on, everybody thinks it's easy. You just Google it. It's not. You have to go into some deep diving to find out this person's this, that, or the other. So when he said that, it was very impressive to both of us because, I think I held my excitement down. I wasn't nervous at all, but excited I was very excited. In the very beginning, I could kind of tell, I'm like, okay, how the hell am I going to start this? And it was cool because we had way more things in common than I knew. I have $3. He has $3. He's from Memphis. I'm from Memphis. I didn't even know he was from Memphis. Had no clue. We talked about Rendezvous. We talked about Bass Pro, etc. So it was a really, I never felt like it was an interview. It felt like it was a conversation the entire time with me, James, and Michael Alford. And he never gave a short answer. There was no such thing as a short answer. He spoke more than anybody, and it was very unlike me.